So hello everyone, this is Athul from Amrita Civil Service Academy. So today we are going to deal with a big question. So UPSC had announced the dates of prelims and mains. So the big question that looms in everyone's mind is what next, right? So what are we supposed to do right now? On one level, we know that we are a bit relieved, right? Because for so long we have been without a date. We didn't know what was the timeline for prelims and mains. So that has brought in so much of slackness into the preparation of aspirants. That is on one side. So we are relieved on one side. But on the other hand, we are equally confused right now with the new dates, I suppose, because this is the entire schedule, the timeline has been postponed to a significant amount, right? We were all hoping that the prelims would be in July or something. So once the prelims is over, we will fully immerse into the mains preparation. So that was the kind of thought that was there in everyone's mind. So UPSC now has upturned all those our our thoughts, our predictions, everything has been upturned, and now there is clarity on when the exam will happen, right? So we have two dates, right? On October 4th, we have the prelims, and January 8th, we have the mains. And now it is June 9, okay? So we have approximately 110 plus days. We'll just take 110 plus, actually it is 112 or something, but we'll just take 110 plus days are there for the prelims, right? Right? So now, so the question that I'm going to answer today is what to do next, okay? So we have two scenarios. One, we know the amount of time we have at hand, right? We know the amount of time at hand, right? So this is what I was trying earlier. So until October 4, we have about 110 plus days. And after October 4, until January 8, we have somewhere around 93 days, sorry, 93 days, okay? So this is the total time we have at hand until prelims and until mains. So 110 plus days before prelims and 93 days after prelims until the mains. So overall, if we calculate, so this is about, this is going to come around plus 200 plus days, almost 200 days. And the interesting thing is that this 110 plus days, the entire time can't be taken for mains preparation, right? So we have to devote some time for prelims. So if we allocate 30 days, which I would say is the ideal amount of time you would have to allot. So provided you have learned something about, you have at least covered everything about prelims, you have done some revision, you have done some test series, I guess 30 days towards the end, maybe from September onwards, 30 days till October 4 should be a good enough time to refresh and re-jog your memory and stuff like that. So that is one way. So if you earmark 30 days for prelims, so this would come down to 80 days, right? So that makes the total days available when it in a main sense would be about 173 days, okay? So if you start, if you are assuming the entire timeline from today, you have somewhere around 30 days you will be ideally getting for prelims and around 173 days for mains. So this 173 can be somewhat approximately rounded to 180, and that means you have a full 6 months, right? I don't think anyone would have noticed that. You have a full 6 months. If you just keep aside 30 days for prelims, you have a full 6 months for your mains preparation. I think that is going to be a, what do you call, a game changer. It can be a boost even to your morale, right? So our assumption was that this number of days were split between prelims and mains, 4 months for prelims, 2 months for mains. So it was so much of confusion, right? So don't worry at all. Everyone is in a total state of confusion. But as saying goes, with confusion or with every crisis, you can find an opportunity, or I would like to call it as you should be willing to fish in troubled waters, right? So whenever in UPSC some change happens, that is what we call as the troubled waters. Nobody knows how to respond to it. Everybody is uncertain about the change. Last time this kind of confusion or troubled waters when it comes to UPSC was in 2013. So everyone who tried to bring some kind of certainty or stability into their preparation had a good year, that had a good attempt that year. I have seen many of my friends clearing service that year just by virtue of they being directed when everything around or everyone around was like rifting hopelessly in so much of confusion and uncertainty. So that is how you want to see this year's prelims. So this year's prelims and mains should be your attempt to fish in troubled waters. Okay, so when confusion spreads, if somebody has certainty or somebody can at least bring some amount of certainty and stability into their strategy and plan, they would have a really good chance. Okay, because end of the day UPSC is all about competition. So anyone of us who are seriously into preparation know that the subjects are easy to learn, but the competition is hard to fight, right? So so that is the whole approach that I'm going to take here. So having said that, let us come back to the time at hand. So overall for main, starting from today, you have somewhere around 6 months if you are allocating just 30 days for prelims. But some people won't find it sufficient. Some people would want more time for prelims. That is perfectly fine. Maybe you can take somewhere around 40-45 days. I would say that out of the next 110 days, taking more than 45 days for prelims won't be an ideal scenario. Okay, but still, so far, if your prelims preparation has been kind of going haywire, it was not structured. So some people would find this as an opportunity to make sure that they clear the prelims. So if you are going to do in that way, if you are going to take maybe another half of this 110 days for your prelims preparation, your mains preparation would be severely affected, but still that is something that can be done. So it is personally your call, okay? So you have to sit and analyze where do you stand in terms of prelims preparation. So if you have been a diligent aspirant with respect to prelims preparation so far, I would say you have to keep aside just 30 days, maybe in a bulk manner at the end, maybe from September to October, or in other words, for me, I am taking every day as 10 hours. Okay, so I'm assuming you will study for 10 hours on a single day. So 30 days to me means 30 hours. Sorry, 300 hours. So maybe you can spend these 300 hours along these 110 days, anytime in between. So if you want to just be in touch with the prelims, okay, that is also one way you can do it. Okay, so that is the overall time we have at hand. Now we are going to consider the task we have at hand. Okay, so everyone, so now we now got an idea about the time we have at hand. So overall, before prelims we have 110 plus days. After prelims still means we have somewhere around 93 days. So deducing for the prelims preparation, we are going to have around 170 days for your mains preparation, the whole length. So that is the net time we all of us have at hand. Now we have to look into the task we have at hand. What is the end task we have right now? So you have to do the prelims, you have to do mains, GS papers, 4 papers are there, optional, essay, and maybe you will have to excel in your answer writing. Right? So this is the task you have at your hand for this coming 6 months plus maybe 30. Okay, so 7 months. You can approximately take it as 7 months. So for the next 7 months, you have so much task to be accomplished within 7 months. Okay, it's a pretty huge thing. So when the amount of task you want to accomplish and the time you are given is so small, how do humans cope up with that kind of a limitation? We prioritize, right? So this year UPSC exam is going to be a classic case of prioritize or perish. So anyone out there are not going to prioritize their preparation, is not going to come up with a strategy with proper prioritization of subject, they are going to perish in the competition. So our key word this year should be prioritize or perish, right? or this would be the reality for us. So our idea would be to prioritize. Okay. So we saw the task at hand, we saw the time at hand, and it has shown us that we have to prioritize, otherwise we will perish. So that is one reality. Now let us look into maybe let us consider what is happening in the real world. Okay, this is an ideal scenario, we have to prioritize. But what would be the stuff that is going in the minds of the aspirants? So from the conversations I had with my students and some of the questions I was posed in a webinar and all those things, what I understand is overall there could be three broad approaches or three scenarios we can consider. Okay, let us consider three scenarios. You can have three scenarios at this stage. So first stage is continue with prelims alone, right? So the people who have been saying this are people who has not taken the exam seriously so far. They haven't put so much effort until now. So now, given 4 months, they are seeing a good chance to revive their preliminary exam prospects. You can't blame them because now they are getting a chance, so they are going into it. But I would say anyone other than that, if they're going to stick with this plan, that would be a disaster. Okay, so all those who have done prelims in a decent manner, who have spent some time in your prelims preparation, maybe somewhere around 6 to 8 to 10 months from starting from last year June or something. So anyone who has done a proper test series, who has shown reasonably good grades, I wouldn't say perfect grades or anything, but reasonably good preparation, reasonable grades, reasonable test taking practice. So all of them shouldn't be going for this approach, right? Prelims only approach, because that is not going to work out in your favor in the long term. So maybe if you are not preparing for prelims so far, now you got an opportunity to prepare prelims. So that is it. Okay, it is not any other opportunity. So if you're going for a prelims only model, it is only those section of the people can benefit out of it. Okay, they would stand a good chance to clear the prelims. But for others who have done a reasonably good job with prelims syllabus, if they stick with prelims, your mains is going to be sabotaged. Okay, so the second scenario would be prelims plus mains. In this, what would be their major focus? They would be allotting maybe 20% of their entire time, maybe 1 or 2 hours daily for prelims. But rest of the time, these people would be allocating for mains. But will that suffice? Okay, on the first instance, you might see, okay, this is the way to go. But just covering mains for an 80% of time, will that meet our prioritization criteria? I would say no, because these people would be covering each part of the syllabus from A to Z, right? They would be taking GS1, GS2, GS3, GS4, or optional. All of this syllabus would be covered from starting from first bubble or module in the syllabus till the last. But do you think they will get sufficient time to complete that in the time we have totally? No, they would find it really difficult, right? So maybe they won't be finishing this syllabus in the next 4 months because you don't have sufficient time to complete the entire syllabus of GS and optional in this given 4 months before the prelim. So I'm saying the time before the prelims. Okay, so if you go into your mains preparation, or it is actually the mains preparation you have to focus more on. So that is a good part, and that is the only good part in this strategy. Okay, they are not doing enough prioritization when it comes to mains or mains topics, to be precisely. So that gives us a third scenario, right? So this would be something like prelims revision plus most important topics in mains plus answer writing. Okay, these most important topics in mains include both GS and optional. Okay, for scarcity of space, I wrote it just mains. So I would say this is the strategy that would meet that prioritization fit. This would be the most efficient kind of a prioritization you can achieve at this stage. I'll go into that particular idea in much more detail. Okay, so I have shown you 3 scenarios which different people would be thinking. So I want you to look into what you have thought so far. Maybe you would have gone for this one, you would have gone for this one, and maybe you are still trying to figure out that these two are not good, so you need a third strategy. Okay, so my experience with UPSC or my consultation with students, some of the seniors in the preparation scene, they all said this is the good strategy you can adopt at this point. Okay, so you will allot some time for prelims preparation, no doubt about it. You would be doing revision, maybe on a daily basis you might allot some time, or like I said in the beginning, maybe a 30 days time would be allotted for prelims. So that is one way you will handle the prelims part in this. And when it comes to mains and optional, you would go for a priority based learning. That is, you would try to cover the most important topics from an exam centric point of view. You're not trying to cover the entire syllabus at this point, but you're going to cover the most important topics in an exam centric point of view until October 4th. And after October 4th, once the prelims is over, you take this prelims thing out, then you can cover the rest of the syllabus that you have left out, and maybe you can do the revision of the most important topics you have already covered, and your answer writing test series and all those stuff. So we will see this third strategy in a much more detail now. Just rewrite that most important thing here. So you have the prelims preparation, then most important topics in mains, plus answer writing, right? So this is going to be our best strategy, and so we are going to see that in a much more detail, how you will effectively work it out. So I'm not going to give you the daily syllabus kind of a thing, but that would follow in our program that we are designing right now. But this would be the overall approach you have to take for the next, I would say 80 days, okay? You could even do it for 110 days, 80 days. Or so this 110 is when this prelims, you are not going to separate prelims and mains preparation. If you are going to do it together, you have 110 days, otherwise you have 80 days. Okay, so my assumption, like I said before, every day you have to study for 10 hours. Okay, so there is no doubt about it, and this 10 hours we are going to divide it in a 4+1 format. Okay, so this I would explain, I would say what 4+1 is, but this 4+1 is for both GS and optional. So 4+1 into 2 is the actual scenario. So out of this 4 would be for studying a subject, particularly if it is optional, you study 4 hours your optional component, the syllabus components. And similarly the GS also, you would study for 4 hours. 1 hour would be kept aside for answer writing. Okay, so that is a broad idea, 4+1, study plus answer writing. It has to go together, because there is no point in just keep on studying without doing answer writing, only to realize that you are not able to express yourself properly in the exam hall. So this would be the total hours on a daily basis, and you will take it in a 4+1 format. So that is study plus answer writing for both optional and GS. So that is the study aspect of, the most time spending. So this is how your time has to go broadly, okay? Now, coming to optional. How will you do your optional during this time? So our motto is prioritization, right? You have to prioritize, because otherwise we would perish. So you have to identify the most important topics, okay? And you should be in a position to generate somewhere around 250 to 300 questions on the most frequently asked questions, or frequently asked UPSC questions. So you should be having somewhere around 250 frequently asked questions. So what is the strategy now? We are not going to entirely cover the syllabus from A to Z, from first page to last page. That is not the idea of the coverage we are going to do at this stage. So I'm saying this is a time before prelims, before October 4. Okay, so all the things that I'm mentioning now is before October 4, until October 4. When it comes to optional, you have to identify the most important topics, and you have to generate somewhere around 250 frequently asked questions. So for example, if you take optional subjects like sociology or geography or public administration or history or Malayalam, for instance, so there would be some amount of dynamism in all of these question papers. But if you have a very observant eye, you can find that there is so much of commonality, there is so much of trend and pattern that you can find out from this question papers. So maybe a good way to do this would be either you can take the help of the faculty who is teaching you, or otherwise, if you want to do it yourself or with your friends, what you can do is take the question papers for past 10 years or so minimal, maybe from 2011 to 2019. So that is one thing you can take. So take the question papers for so much of years and try to identify somewhere around 200 plus questions, because overall it is going to be 200 plus only. So maybe some more other questions you can identify from questions that you might seem which would be there are high chances of getting asked and things like that. So overall, the previous year UPSC questions, you have to look at various repeating set of questions, the trend or pattern you have to look at, generate some set of questions from there. Then you can cover the syllabus, or you can look the syllabus for which you think could be important. And so you are going to generate some most important topics and somewhere around 250 frequently asked questions. So that is the main strategy for mains, optional. So once you find out these topics, so this is what you're going to learn on a daily basis. So it is this 4 hours would be spent for this most important topics and 1 hour for this solving this frequently asked questions. Okay, so how will it go? Maybe I would suggest you have to spend maybe 1 hour on every morning, because if you keep aside the answer writing to be done at the end of the day, very often people find it hard to do it because they would just procrastinate if it comes at the end of the day. So let answer writing be the first thing with which you start your preparation. So start with answers, write for 1 hour GS, 1 hour optional. Then you can maybe even within that 1 hour you can do some follow-up on the answers. You can send it to some evaluators, get feedback, and include the feedback what they are saying into that answers itself. Then you go for your preparation, right? 4 hour for GS and 4 hour for optional. So in that 4 hour time for optional, you're going to look at the most important topics, right? So I guess this is pretty clear. So I would explain the optional once more. I'll just recap it. So you have to identify the most important topics from the syllabus, from an analysis of syllabus and the past 10-year question papers. Identify commonalities, trends, seek out the help of faculties, your friends who have scored really well and things like that. So identify most important topics, generate frequently asked questions, and then you have to do this answer writing practice on a daily basis. So do you think it stops there? No, it doesn't stop there. So once you start the answer writing practice, you will find that maybe, for example, optional, if the mark is out of 15, if it's a 50 marker question or a 20 marker question. So optional, it is perfect that you have to score around 60%, right? Because our target is 300 plus in any optional these days. So you have to score 60%. So out of 20 mark, you should be getting plus more than 12. So if your evaluator is not giving more than 12, it means your answer is not that good. So maybe 12 or 13. So idea is for every answer you write, you should be getting a grade of more than 60%. Or if the evaluator might be a bit stringent in giving marks, but still 60% is the ideal cutoff for each answer you're trying to achieve. So until the evaluator gives you 60% mark, you have to keep refining your answer. Got it? So that is how you learn it. So you identify most important topics, learn those topics, generate questions from that topic, write these answers, write it again and again, gaining feedback from the evaluators until you score mark higher than 60%. So when you're scoring a mark higher than 60%, there would be some components in that answer. What would it be? There would be a good intro, there would be a great body part, there would be a great conclusion, then there would be examples wherever necessary, diagrams wherever necessary. So that is the only way in which you score above 60% of the mark. All these components should be there in the answer. So after the first writing, when you do it spontaneously, maybe I would suggest you have to curate these answers to perfection, right? Taking the help of all this support system you have around you, curate each of these answers to perfection with a perfect intro, body, conclusion, right? So I am well aware that it won't be possible for all the questions and for all the subjects. There are variations. For example, subjects like Malayalam or history, philosophy, some sociology to a large extent. Some of these subjects have really good static component. So those subjects are really amenable to this process. But there are subjects like public administration where there is so much of dynamism. It's very difficult to find out some trend or pattern in PubAd and geography papers, I know. But still, try your maximum, or with the help of your mentors, try the maximum to get a set of frequently asked questions or frequently asked areas. And perfect curation of answers, which would fetch you more than 300 plus when you write it. So that is what you are going to do in the next 80 days until October 4. So mind you, how it become 80 and 110. Okay, so that is with optional. Now we will see what we will do with the GS thing. So when it comes to general studies, our idea is ideally you should be studying for a 400 plus in GS. At this stage, maybe after, once your prelims is over, you would cop up for maybe to notch up the mark by 20 or 30. So 420 to 430 would be a really good marks in GS. So at this point, we are looking for 400 plus anyway. So the idea is, again, when it comes to general studies also, you won't be in a position to complete the entire syllabus. So I'm speaking to all those people who haven't completed the entire stuff. Maybe I'm not looking at veterans at this point. So I'm looking at first timers largely. So people wouldn't have completed the syllabus. They have so much areas left and things like that. Or maybe they haven't done revision many a times and things like that. So we are addressing that set of students. So when it comes to general studies, how to make the maximum use in the next 80 days, right? So one thing you have to keep in mind is you are going to follow the same strategy as the optional. You have to have the set of most important topics. For example, GS1. Okay, so GS1, we know there is a history component, there is a geography component, there is a society component, right? So majorly speaking, these three are the subject matter in GS1. So in this history itself, if you take it and look at the world history is something you can easily avoid at this point. Okay, I would say you don't have to look at world history in this next 80 days because it has very low return on investment, because very rarely you get questions from world history and you have a huge syllabus to cover also. So I would suggest you keep aside world history at this point. Then what we are left with? Ancient, medieval and modern and art and culture, right? That is what we are left with. So I would say that maybe you have to look at your strategy for history should be to learn 15 to 20 questions in each. Okay, you have to master some around 15 to 20 questions, which means around 15 to 20 themes in ancient, in medieval, in art and culture and modern. Okay, so overall history part you will be covering for around 80 questions. So if you do 80 questions, 80 most important themes or most important questions, if you can do a good job with 80 questions, I would say you are kind of looking at the most chancy areas, right? Because all of us know that UPSC is not just random question paper being made. There is a trend, and all those who clear the exam are people who know the trend. So we are exactly going to replicate the mind of a topper here. So you are going to identify somewhere around 20 questions in each component of history and going to master that at this point. Because due to paucity or scarcity of time, that is the best or the most priority-based strategy we can follow right now. And when it comes to geography, I would say about 20 to 25 questions or themes should be sufficient to cover your entire geography. For example, maybe you know plate tectonics. They frequently ask a question on plate tectonics. There could be a question on resource geography. So just add up things and areas like that. You can take it to a maximum of 20 to 25. I don't think you have to prepare more than that. When it comes to society, I would say even lesser. So maximum 20 questions should be more than enough. So just imagine 80 to 120 plus 120. So around 120 questions should be sufficient for GS1. In order to do a good job at GS1, I would say you will have to master somewhere around 120 questions. So are you getting the approach I'm trying to evolve or develop right here? So I guess this is the best bet we have right now, as opposed to covering the entire syllabus from page 1 to last. Okay, maybe that would have been the covering the entire syllabus. When it comes to UPSC, that is always the safest strategy. But in particular year, in this year, when you have such a situation, for the next 80 days, you have to prioritize and cover the most important topics. And after that, you have time to do all this stuff, right? So all those syllabus portions which we haven't learned in this set of learning, which you are leaving out, you can do some of that after prelims. Once you write the prelims and you're sure of you clearing it, you can patch up all the rest, or you can fill the gaps of the remaining syllabus. And at that time, you also get time to revise this most important topics you have already learned, and maybe do a test series. So that is how you prioritize the time you have. When it comes to society also, somewhere around 20 questions, right? So you know the strategy with which UPSC is asking questions on society. So they take one bubble in the syllabus, another bubble, they just compare and frame a question. For example, women and associated issues is one part in the syllabus. Then there is another thing called globalization. So UPSC so quickly makes a question out of that how has globalization impacted the situation of women? Has it made their situation better or for worse, right? So that is one way they come up questions with. So that is something we can also adopt. We take what do you call, maybe communalism and caste. So communalism, has it increased the situation of casteism in this country, or has it reduced, or does it have any impact? Or maybe globalization and elderly, globalization and youth. So we can just take ideas and compare and cross-pollinate and come up with new questions. And just that would add to somewhere around 20 to 25 questions. So if you know some of the basic, most important themes, I would say it is a good strategy to go with society, geography, history, and all that. So when it comes to paper 2, you have polity, a really tough area. So I would say you can have maximum around 60 questions, 60 to 70 questions should suffice. Or even you can go up to 80 questions. Just identify most important 80 questions from polity and learn it, right? Learn it and learn to write also, not the topic alone. Once you learn, you have to immediately write it down. You have to frame a question or find out a question from some source, write it down, get it evaluated. Right? Are you getting a hang of how you have to work out this year? So polity, it would be something around like that. Governance, again, of late, it has been a kind of more into public administration theory aspects are being asked, but still, I would say you can complete it with 20 maximum. I would say 20 should be sufficient for governance. Then IR also, you would have so much area to learn, but of late, the trend is to ask around very few areas. Okay, so I would say 15 to 20 themes should be fine. So again, 80 plus 20, 100, again 120. So again, paper 2 is going to around 120. So this is also 120, this is also 120, right? So that is a kind of thing you do for each paper. Same thing you can do for paper 3, right? When it comes to economy, you can identify somewhere around 80 questions for economy and almost cover the most important about non-performing assets, the issues in agriculture, the issue with agriculture credit, issue with marketing, issue with GDP growth, productivity, our employment scenario. So this would, I know, I don't think how you can take it beyond 80, right? So economy would be like that, then environmental disaster management, internal security. So that more maybe in internal security, you can earmark at 20. So this environment disaster management role you can cover in 20 questions. And when it comes to paper 4 or ethics, maybe you can do somewhere around 70 question for section A and 30 question for the case study. You just learn in this question format, identify the most important question. So this is the number of questions you need to do. So just see everything. So 120 into 3, 360 plus maybe 100. 460 is the total kind of questions you require. So you have somewhere around 80 days. So maybe you have to do 4 questions on a daily basis, but that is still going to be only 320. But that is fine. Just 140 more questions. We need to find some space, but maybe then you can do every day 5 questions, right? Push yourself more, right? So if you do every day 5 questions within 80 days, you can cover 400 questions, right? Still, you would be 60 questions short in this plan I gave. But that is fine. I would say you can do it after the prelims. But if you do 50 questions for GS, if you do 5 questions for GS on a daily basis and 3 questions for optional, so that counts to around 8 questions on a daily basis. So 8 into 80, so you are going to practice 640 questions in the next 3 months, I would say. So, and I think that is the way you should be doing it. So this might not be the way that is familiar with you. This might not be the way that is going to be comfortable with you. This might not be the way that has a sense of order in it. So some people want to take things slowly, right? Take the syllabus, learn the entire syllabus, then start with answer writing one by one. And even when they're doing the syllabus, they will go one chapter to next chapter to next. So if you are a stickler for stability, if you want to take it one by one, this year would be going to be a hard year for you, right? So you just have to, what we call, when the situation turn, or like the saying goes, when life gives you lemon, you make lemonade out of it. So that is the idea we're trying to do it here. So I hope your GS plan is clear, and maybe the current affairs aspect, that is another thing all of you would be doubting. So I would say it's not going to be learned separately. So out of the, so which is the subject having most current affairs component, polity would be one, economy would be one, internal security, society could be one. So just give 50% weightage for current affairs if you want. Out of the 80 question in polity, you can do 40 from current affairs and 40 from static component. But going by the last 3 years trend in polity, what I have seen is most of the question is very much static with 2 or 3 current affairs questions maximum in every year. So they ask 9 to 11 question on polity part alone every year. So out of that, maybe 2 or 3 is the only questions that comes from that has a clear current affairs dimension. Maybe you can interpret all the 9 questions as current affairs, but let's not do that. So if you do static and current affairs on a 50-50 basis, you're good with that also, right? So optional, you do the most important topics, do 3 questions daily. In the 80 days, you do somewhere around 240 questions. So that is what you're going to cover for optional. And for GS, you are going to do 5 questions daily. Within the 18 days, you are going to do, 400 questions. 400 plus 2, 640 is the total questions you are going to do in the next 80 days. Can you do that? That is a real question. Can you do that? And can you, it's not about just writing down some questions and answers, right? You identify the most important questions, you write down the answers, you try to score 60% from the evaluator. So evaluator is not giving you 60%, you have to ask the evaluator why you are not being given 60% and make all the improvements, all the corresponding improvements have to be made based on the feedback, so that you create an answer for that question which gives you 60% marks. Okay, so that is the objective here. So optional, you do that. GS, it won't be 60%, but at least maybe 55-60 is a good target you can look for. So that you do with both GS and optional. I would say when you do so much of work with optional and GS, essay writing would be the next question you would have. I would say if you have a decent answer writing, if your answer writing is fairly decent, if you have a simpler way of presenting ideas, you don't have to worry so much about your essay writing at this point, between the time from today to maybe till the prelims. Okay, so if the other stuff is going really good, maybe once in a while, once in a week or once in 2 weeks or something, you can just write an essay and get it evaluated by the teacher. Okay, I think that should be sufficient for essay at this stage. Maybe once we do all this major stuff before prelims, and after prelims, when you do the test series, you can do some essay writing practice, because I don't think you will be getting time for all of this. Okay, so I think you now have a fairly decent idea of the stuff that you have to do in the next coming 80 or 110, depending on how you want to spend your prelims in the days till prelims. Okay, focus more on your mains, focus more on the most important topics in mains, both from an optional standpoint and from a GS standpoint. So when you're looking at the most important topics, do the answer writing along with it. Don't see that as separate entities. Answer writing is not at all separate from the learning process. Or in fact, what I would ideally want you to do is first do the answer writing and maybe learn the topic. Okay, first just take some questions in polity. You would have learned something for your prelims prelims, right? Just start writing an answer, see how you're faring, and try to fill in the gaps you are facing when you are writing an answer. So that is also a reverse engineering is also a good way to go about it. So I hope you are clear with this first 80 days. Now, if you go into the time after the prelim, so you have, I said, no, you have somewhere around 93 days. So let us see what we can do at that point. Okay, after prelims, what you have to do is you have to complete the pending topics, right, in the syllabus, because until prelims, you are not going to cover the entire syllabus, right? You are going to cover the most important topics only. So complete the pending topic. Then revise the most important topics and the frequently asked questions that you have been practicing. So that is very crucial, because end of the day, my guess would be 80% of the question is going to come from this area, and it would be just 20% from remaining part of the syllabus if you identify the most important topics in a sensible way. So that would be the next important thing. Then would be the do a test series, do a proper test series. So your test series could even be part of the before prelims plan. So it depends. That is all fine, I guess. So, but anyway, if you're not doing a test series, if you are not in a position to manage all this, at least try to do a test series during that 2 months. You can do this revision part in a much more systematic way. So I guess that is what you're going to do in after prelims 93 days. Okay. So I hope I've shed some clarity on this so much of darkness and confusion that is out there. So I would just recap what I have been, or what is the philosophy which I have been telling to you. So idea is that we have very limited time. We have so much task at hand. So we are going to prioritize, right? We are going to prioritize like anything. So we looked at the time. So we have somewhere around 80 days before prelims, which you can devote for mains alone. And after prelims, you have somewhere around 93 days. That both gives us around 170 days, which is approximately 6 months. So you have 6 months for mains. So there is no point in worrying. Okay. But before prelims, you have to do the major stuff. You have to do the most important stuff. Then only you can do that revision on it. You can do some test series and all those stuff. So before prelims, when it comes to GS mains and optional, try to do the most important topics in a systematic manner. So when you are doing the most important topics, the idea is that every day you should be practicing somewhere around 5 plus 3, 8 questions, 5 from GS and 3 from optional. Then you have to get it evaluated by some evaluator. You have to curate perfect answers for these questions. So that is the answer writing part of it. And when it comes to the studying part of it, you learn these most important topics in a holistic manner as to what is the context of that issue, what are the causes, what are the consequences, what could be a hopeful or futuristic conclusion you can write if you want, if you are getting a question from that. So whenever you are learning a topic, like I said, learn it from an answer writing form. Whenever you are learning something, make sure that you are thinking about how you can introduce this answer in an ideal way if a question comes out of it, how you can conclude this topic in a great way if a question comes out of it. Gather some examples, do some sensible, smart research, right? So in that way, you do the GS in a sufficiently good enough. So I was mentioning about approximately 120 questions per each GS paper. So that would come around somewhere around 480 if you're doing 120 for all papers. But ethics, I would say 100 should be sufficient. So it comes to 460. But at least my plan is for 400 questions if you do 5 questions on a daily basis. But the ideal could always be 460, right? Ideally something we will never reach, but we will constantly look forward to. So that is the GS. Similarly for optional, I would say for optional also, the perfect plan would be to perfectly curate somewhere around 200 to 300 questions. So I'm not saying this out of a mere conjecture, because I have done that for myself, and I ended up in a very top percentile when it comes to the optional marks. So you can perfectly curate your optional preparation also. Same thing, identify the most important topics, the most important questions, make perfect answers for it with perfect intro, body and conclusion. Revise it again and again, because for some optional it is fully possible, like Malayalam, history and options like that, maybe anthropology psychology, but some optional where there is so much of dynamism, like public administration or political science, or what you call geography. You won't be doing, you won't be in a position to do this in 100% manner, but still you can go for somewhere around 70 to 80%. Because so much of prediction and trend or a predictive trend exists in this exam. Okay, so use that ability to the maximum extent. Okay, so take good help from your mentors or evaluators or teachers who are out there to help you. That you have to take full help from the entire learning ecosystem you have built around you over the time. Maybe it could be your course students who are preparing, could be your teachers or your faculty or your institutional heads. Seek out help from everyone. Okay, so let us do this in a much collaborative and smart way. Okay, so I hope this is all the clarity I got to shed at this point. So we will be coming with a much more detailed session on each subject, how you can do polity in this maybe 80 to 100 question, how you can do economy in 80 question, which would be the ideal set of that questions. All that are to follow in a soon. Okay, it would be following soon. So watch this space for more videos. Thank you.